This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so for everyone intents and purposes, this meeting is now being recorded, and take it away.
I'll call the meeting to order again. We have a quorum, and it is now 6:05. Leah, the guests that I have noted are Katie Tortorello, Mark Burgess, Charles Agro, Paul Wittenstein, Mark Kelleher, and John O'Reilly. Heinz is on the phone. I don't know if there is anyone else as a guest. No one's, I've mentioned all the names. That is it. At this time, we're going to review and approve the minutes of the March 17th, 2021 meeting. Has anyone have a chance to review them?
Yes.
Sure.
Any corrections or omissions?
None.
Entertain a motion to accept.
Seconded.
Who made the motion?
I'll make the motion. Mark Kelleher to
Mark
accept.
Dan made the motion. Mark Kelleher seconded. Mark Kelleher?
Yeah.
I don't have Mark as a member.
Oh, I'm sorry. I spoke out of turn. I'm sorry.
Mark, are you?
I'm on the housing authority, and I'm used to Phil doing all that stuff. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion. Who's going to second it?
I'll second it.
Who is that?
Larry.
Larry. Thank you, Larry. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed. The minutes are accepted and they'll be submitted. There's nothing on the consent agenda for this month, and we have nothing for open forum. John, you have the financial statements. Please present them.
Okay, I think I attached it to all the agenda documents. So
Yes, they were.
end of March, fiscal year 21, end of this past month, March, we are progressing very well from a revenue standpoint. You can see at the bottom two lines the month total and the year-to-date total, and it's compared to March of the previous year, March of FY20 is how that report reads. So, you can clearly see our revenues are strong. We are already, our year-to-date total of $1,337,000, that's just off of last year's total revenue for the year, and that's only end of March. We still have April, May, and June numbers, so we're going to have a good year, and a lot of it has to do with visitor dockage. I think is going to be strong this year. We've got a ton of reservations, and it's going to be a busy summer. And our seasonal dockage really, the numbers fluctuate a little bit based upon new boats coming in and new permits that have been awarded from those that have been vacated. So you have a little differential there, but by and large, our offloading permits and our visitor dockage, we had a good winter with several boats, obviously from Chatham and the B permits, and we also had a number of recreational boaters that stayed in the water over the winter. So, we're tracking. If there's any specific questions within the numbers, I'd be happy to address, but it's going to be a good year.
John, I have a comment. Looks like we're running 65,000, 66,000 over a year-to-date revenue, which is great. What are the notes? What are the notes in the margin over to the right?
So offloading permit, when it says includes ticket lease, that's the passenger boats. They pay a lease for to run their ticket booths on our property. 1/2 boat excise tax, that mooring account holds not only our mooring fees, but it also holds half of the boat excise tax that we generate. And we have not yet gotten, it says need half of boat excise tax for February. So we're missing that. So there'll be a little bit more there.
Okay.
And then February revenues, not sure what that, for artisan shacks and parking violations, I'm not sure what Michelle's note is there. But
Okay. It may have been picked up in February. Thank you.
could be, yeah.
Any other questions on the financial statement? Dan?
I was gonna quick. This might be pretty stupid, but under where do I see it?
No questions.
The ramp fee collected, is that passes you've sold?
Yes, seasonal ramp passes. Obviously, we're not charging daily yet, but
So is that still for the summertime, like parking stickers?
yeah. And part of that is timing. A lot of people are doing it early, it seems. But yeah, it's significant. That ramp's going to be busy.
I better get in on Thursday afternoon then.
Any other questions? Thank you, John.
Sure.
The first item of new business, proposed seasonal aluminum dock structure at 41 Sequantum Road, parentheses Kemper, John M. O'Reilly and Associates. Who is going to make that presentation?
Mr. Chairman, John O'Reilly here.
John O'Reilly. Thank you.
Thank you. As is outlined in the notice, we are seeking approval from the Conservation Commission to update and enlarge the existing seasonal dock that currently serves the property. The current dock is timber and does have a landing at the end with a boat lift at the end of it. We are proposing to remove that completely and install a seasonal aluminum type dock, which will come in sections and be located as it's shown on the plan directly off the retaining wall that's along the shore. The length of the dock out into the pond is just under 70 feet. The dock, as it's comprised, does meet all the guidelines set forth for seasonal freshwater docks. And so I'm here tonight to answer any questions the Waterway Committee has, and I'd be happy to do so.
First, can I ask for the opinion of the harbor master? This is I'm assuming it's a replacement dock.
John O'Reilly speaking. There is a licensed dock for the property. We are replacing that dock with a new dock. We would be seeking a new license through the Waterways Division of DEP.
Okay. Mr. Harbor Master, your opinion? And
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So I did do a site visit of the proposed location for the seasonal dock. Mr. O'Reilly did set a float that I requested to show kind of where the furthest most edge of the float would be in the waterway. I think it's appropriate. I think there's plenty of room on both sides as far as the clearances are concerned. The boat lift is pretty significant. I see it sitting on the water's edge there at the property. I guess my question to Mr. O'Reilly is, where are they? Do they store that on the water's edge throughout the winter? And is that their plan to do so?
That has been what they had been doing, and Conservation Commission in their review of the project will not allow that to continue. So we have talked to the commission. They have made reference to putting all the dock structures on the patio that's adjacent to the existing boathouse, just offshore. But if it cannot fit there, they've been told or will be required to move it off-site during the off-season.
Yeah, and that would be my guess, is that would be Conservation's requirement, and I think it's going to be a tough fit on that platform that they have. I mean, I don't know. I see that the old timber dock is stored there, and I'm guessing the aluminum dock will be stored there as well. But from a navigational standpoint, I don't have any issues with what is being proposed here.
Thank you.
And Mr. O'Reilly did provide me a copy of the current Chapter 91 license for the existing dock. So, there'll be a revision there, but there is a license for it. So.
Okay. Heinz Prof, do you have any comments? Or is there any need for a comment from you since it's an existing dock?
Yeah, affirmative. I'm familiar with the site, and whether that was new or an old project. Again, Natural Resources looks at fish passage, eel, grass, shellfish habitat, but that's all been addressed or covered. And if it is addressed by Conservation Commission, they'll do any kind of added language. But no, I'm not opposed to that project.
Any questions from the members of the Waterways Committee?
Yeah.
John Joe Johnson has arrived. Welcome, Joe. I will entertain a motion to accept the proposal by Mr. O'Reilly for the dock at, I turned my minutes over, 41 Sequantum Road, Kemper. And
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
before we proceed, do we have to designate a plan number, Mr. Harbor Master?
I think this is the only plan that was,
Well, I think Mr. O'Reilly probably has a plan number on here. It's got a job number, and I can speak to it. It's J is in.
Can we add that to the, we should add that to the motion, I think.
okay.
Sure.
I make a motion to approve job number JMO 8910.
Second.
Dated look, I can't read it, dated 2/8.
Dated 2/9/2021.
Through the chair, John O'Reilly speaking.
Yes, sir.
You probably should reference that the plan date be March 9th, 2021. It was revised as from an earlier review from the commission. So you should use the March 9th date in your records.
Now I have to ask the harbor master, can we make an approval of something we don't have the plan in front of us?
No, I believe you have the plan.
We do have the plan?
Yep, it's revised March 9th. It's right above the title block.
Can't read it. Let me get my magnifying glass out.
Actually, if you, can you scroll down where it says Double Ranch LLC?
Yeah,
Right above that, there is some wording that is very small, and that's the revision note that's dated March 9th, 2021. Now you'll see it.
yeah, I see it. I got a magnifying glass, so I saw it.
All right.
Look
All right.
correct.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, date 3/9/2021.
Thank you.
Second.
Leah, could you read back the motion that was made? Oh, Dan made the motion, and
Yep, so I have a motion made by Dan Hall to accept the proposed plan JMO8910 dated 3/9/2021, proposed by John O'Reilly for the dock at 41 Sequantum Road, Kemper, and seconded by Jay Walpole, I believe.
Yes.
Jay, okay.
Oh,
Any further
You laugh.
questions? Who's that?
Nothing.
All right, entertain a motion to accept. All in favor saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Ryan.
very much.
The next order of business is number 2, proposed pier ramp and float, 41 Nons Road, Mr. Andy Pye, Andy Beth, Mark Burgess, Shorefront Consulting. I don't think Andy and Beth are here tonight, but you're making a proposal, Mr. Burgess?
I will. I believe Andy is on the line. His phone is, here he is.
Yeah, I'm on mute.
Hi,
I
Andy.
didn't want to interrupt.
That's right. This is Tom.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I didn't know you were trying to.
Hi, Tom, how are you?
Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Yeah, so for the record, I'm Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, representing Andy and Beth Pye for this project. This is a new dock in the creek between Allen's Harbor and the back creek there.
It is.
It is.
Yep.
It's a monopile design, similar to the new designs that are coming out. It is of adequate height for the public access. It runs from the existing bulkhead out over the beach with a 20-foot ramp down onto a 6 by 24-foot float. Initially, the float was located out a little bit further, and when John and Heinz took a look at it, John asked me to see what I could do to move it in. So we narrowed the float, and I moved it in by 3 feet. Moved it a foot landward, and I made it 2 feet less in width. So the seaward edge of the float, as you see it, is 3 feet from where it used to be. The project does include some dredging. It's not a lot. I think I said 40 yards. Sorry. 65 cubic yards of dredging. And it's not intertidal dredging. It starts at the mean low water line with a 2-to-1 slope on all sides. The float is positioned basically on the edge of the dredge cut. And I specifically gave you some pictures that showed the site at like a minus 0.7 tide. So in my opinion, that would be the worst that the navigation could possibly be. And if you've been to the site, it's been staked out to where the end of the dock is and the end of the float. The boat that would be there is in the driveway. And you should note also there are 2 moorings in front of this site, one of which would go away. And Andy could speak to which one is which, but whichever mooring is closest to where the dock is, that one goes away, and the other one would be by the other person who currently is using that that mooring. We feel that the position of the float is very much off to the side of the channel, and certainly because the boat is now fixed and not swinging on a mooring in the middle of the channel, that you know, it's an improvement over the potentials for navigation. But of course, we need to hear from John regarding that. So I'm going to say relatively simple project. We kept the float. The float is as landward as I can get it without doing intertidal dredging, which is apparently frowned upon. With that, I guess I can address questions from you.
Should we get comment from the harbor master and the natural resource officer first, then get questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me add real quick. There was a shellfish survey done by BSC Group, and obviously there are shellfish in the area.
Yeah, but neighbors can't catch shellfish there.
Say again?
Neighbors can't shellfish there. I'm being facetious.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right in the way that the only way that the public could shellfish there would be with boat access.
Or in the winter.
Well, but there's no public access to that part of the beach without going over land.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, I'm done now.
John and Heinz?
Hein, do you want to go ahead and address the shellfish issue first?
So yeah, it's Heinz, and I do have a couple comments. I've been to the site. I was at the site with Mark at one time. I actually was there checking shellfishermen, and it was actually 2 women, but that area does get shellfished, and the access can be done by a small kayak, canoe, and so forth, but people also can walk in from Allen Harbor parking lot. They have permission to walk then along the shoreline and make that little turn into Oyster Creek, but they wouldn't get to this other side that this dock is being presented, but there were people along that side of the stream. It is an area that does get seeded with shellfish. Now, I'm not saying I go right to that exact spot and plant shellfish there, but I do plant the middle of Oyster Creek, and, you know, animals can move. To what degree, I don't know. I saw the Shellfish Survey. It is well within the realm of what you would anticipate seeing there. And if there is dredging that is approved, then I would just suggest that I recommend that any dredging would then remove or sift out as much shellfish as possible so that I could return it there or put it as close to that area as possible. No eelgrass here, no fish passage concerns, and I very likely would see conservation ask for mitigation here. But Oyster Creek is a viable, good shellfishing area, and this is within that area. I don't want to say, you know, X marks the spot really for this dock, but Oyster Creek is certainly an area that shellfish can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Heinz. John, before you make your comments, driving by, I looked over to the area yesterday, and it looks like there's some construction going on. Is this started already?
It has not started. There's construction that's going on across the creek on one of the homes that is.
No. This is in the water. It looked like a dock.
I understand that. There's a construction barge in there, and they're redoing a water-dependent structure across the way that has been permitted.
Oh, okay. It's not this area.
It's not this property.
Or Dunn's property. They're adjacent.
I don't know the Dunn's property, but it's across the creek.
Okay, that's Stevens. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So through the chairman, this is a tough spot. I think, you know, I laugh when Mark says that this is a relatively easy project. I don't think any project Mark has had has been relatively easy.
You're right there, John.
I do think that he has certainly improved the initial proposal. When I first went out there by land, me and Heinz visited the site and took a look at it from land side. And then again, I took the boat down up the creek and took a look at it from the water side. And in both instances, I felt the float would be sticking almost halfway into the dredge channel, or pretty close, too much from my perspective. I think the changes that he has incorporated, bringing the edge of the float another 3 feet in, will indeed put the float at the edge of, at pretty much the edge of the channel, and in alignment or even closer to shore than some of the existing docks that are there. You know, I don't know how conservation will look upon the need to dredge. but it needs to be dredged in order for this to happen. And otherwise, it won't happen, because I wouldn't support going any further out because I think it would stick too far into the dredge channel. But if indeed they're allowed to get the required depth underneath the float, then I would support it. And
Thank you.
I can answer any questions if anybody has any comments.
Any questions from the members present? No questions? All right, then we'll entertain a motion
What?
to. Who's that? Someone had a question or comment? Then we'll entertain a motion to accept the proposed pier, ramp, and float at 41 Nons Road, in parentheses, PYE, Leah, subject to approval by the Conservation Commission. Is that correct, John? You're muted. You're muted.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
No, we can't. Yeah.
Okay. Everything that comes before us, any water dependent structure is
subject to. Okay, so we don't have to put that.
I don't think you need to say that. They are the ultimate approving authority. We provide our assessment based upon navigation. So.
Okay. Who will entertain making the motion and second it? Jay, is that you? I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion.
Jay?
Yeah.
Okay, and second? Yes, that's.
I'll second it.
Dan.
I mean,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. The
Thank you.
next,
Thank you very much, everyone.
thank you, Mark, and see you, Andy. See you this summer.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next order of business is the proposed modification to existing seasonal dock, Mashpa Road. Catherine Tortorello, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Katie Tortorello, or Catherine. Thanks for having me to your meeting. I also want to introduce my husband, Chuck, is here in one of these boxes with all of us.
Yes.
He's here to help me fill in the gaps in case I forget something. We have a shared dock on Long Pond. We share with 5 other families in our neighborhood. The dock is currently 72 feet, and the slope of it's currently 72 feet. We can have anywhere from 1 to 4 boats on it. It has the water is very sloped and shallow, gradual out into the dock. You have to get out about halfway before you have even 3 feet of water, and at the end of the dock it's about 4 feet depth. Last year, as we all know, there was a huge drought, and the water level went way down to the point where we were having a lot of trouble safely docking boats at the dock. I bet the water level dropped at least a foot, and boats were getting damaged. We had damage to hulls hitting the bottom. We had damage to engines hitting the bottom, and we tried everything with vendors. So we were racking our brains trying to figure out if there was a way to safely put boats at our dock this winter. And I called the town and found out that docks are allowed to be 80 feet on Long Ponds. Well, actually, first I checked the mooring, but we weren't allowed to have a mooring. So then we started thinking about the dock itself. So if it's allowed to be 80 feet, we thought, wow, if we could add one section of dock. This is a dock that's been there, I believe, it's a little confusing, but because we bought the property in 2013, I think the dock started in maybe 2003. It was permitted, Chapter 91. everything's complies with,
Huh?
you know,
No,
state
no,
regulations.
silly.
Pardon me?
No,
Did
sorry,
someone-
go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Please, one at a time. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Katie.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, so we were thinking, well, what if we added one section of dock? It's, as I said, a sectional dock. One section is 8 feet. So if we added one section, it would go from 72 to 80 feet. And that extra 8 feet would give us that much more water depth, so we could safely, we feel that in most conditions, we could safely put the boats at the dock. The document you guys are looking at is, I think a copy of the original engineering plan.
Right.
It has there's a deck on shore where we store the sections during the winter, and then the boat the dock goes straight out, and then there's a rectangular T at the end. The T is, I think, 8 feet on the short side, and was it a check 20 feet on the long side, because it's two 8-foot sections and then a vertical section in the middle, which is 4 feet wide, so that would be 20 feet. We would keep absolutely everything the same, except we would add one section of dock to the straight part, so it would make it be 80 feet long instead of 72. I don't know if there's anything else to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Well, looking at these documents that I have, they're all dated either 03 or 06. Is there anything current?
Yeah, I don't have a current engineering plan. We didn't think we needed an engineering plan to add one dock section. I did submit a bunch of documents yesterday. Hopefully everybody got them, because I realized in the agenda documents, the RDA, which is, I hope you all know what an RDA is, that we submitted to everybody. I gave a packet to the harbor master's office, and it includes like a narrative of what we're doing and pictures and diagrams and a copy of this engineering plan that was from 2002 amended, which I amended on April 1st, 2021, to show where we, basically where this says remove here on this old engineering plan. If you can see, there's an X and it says remove. We would add that back in. So I hope everybody received those things. I just sent them yesterday, and I apologize about the late timing, but that was my application. For some reason, my application wasn't part of the documents that got on the agenda or was mailed around. So I don't know how what happened, but.
I don't have copies. John, Rendon, do you have?
So yeah, if I can speak to it, that's probably my fault. I mean, I thought I posted electronically what you provided me, and if I missed it, it's my fault. I do have what you sent to all the members yesterday via email, and in there is the request for determination of applicability that you speak of. And there's a picture, and essentially, what they're doing is the existing dock is not moving location. They want to add an 8-foot section to it, so it extending it from 72 feet out to 80 feet.
80 feet.
Right.
So I can, if you're ready for me to speak to the project, I can.
Yes, please.
Chairman.
Please.
So I guess I have I have a few questions. Who owns the dock? I mean, who's the holder of you say there is a Chapter 91 license. I don't have it, but who owns it?
Who is John Argier?
James Arger.
James Arger, I'm sorry.
I don't know the complete history of all of this. It happened before our time, but Back in 2002, James Arger, who lived across the street, applied for, he hired the Moran Engineering Company and did all of this and went through conservation and waterways, and he got the Chapter 91 license for the dock. He has since passed away. His house has been passed on to his sons, and then subsequently one son bought the other out. So their house is owned by Michael Arger, who lives in Indiana. He is one of the 6 families that use this dock. So all of us have deeded rights to the shore. I don't know legally, but I think Mike Arger is the one that has the license, I guess. Originally.
Okay, so
Sorry.
Katie, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's roughly. It's hard for me to answer that, like legally, who owns it. I don't know. We all have deeded rights, and we're all interested in adding the section to the dock so that our boats can be safe. So.
John, whose property abuts the dock?
Abuts the dock, or
Yeah.
whose property is the dock on?
Or properties on the dock is on, either or.
The dock is on land owned by 2 people named Elgin. Edric Thompson and Ralph Stevens. They are trustees. They live in Brewster, and they have been notified, both certified mail as abutters and owners, and I mailed them the entire RDA packet.
Can I revert back to our harbor master?
Okay, so I'm not a lawyer, and it just, to me, I guess I don't feel comfortable saying we should approve this, because I think it needs to come from who owns the dock. And I may be wrong, and maybe conservation will have a different take on it. But if Michael Arger has now taken over the property and taken over the estate, I would guess he's probably the owner of the property, and I mean of the Chapter 91 license and the dock system. But I don't know that, so I mean, I think that needs to be answered, and maybe conservation, who is the ultimate approving authority, may have a different take, and if they do, that's fine. But I'm giving you my opinion. I think I think that needs to be confirmed.
If I may, excuse me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to kind of go to the next thing. So if you want to follow up on that point, go ahead.
Yes, I do. I talked to Amy Zowski in conservation. We sat down for a while and talked about all this. And I said, who should be the applicant here? Should Michael Arger be the applicant? And she said, no, it's fine that you're the applicant. You're one of the deeded people to this dock and this shoreline. And it's fine for any of the people who, use the dock, use the area to apply for this RDA.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
well, that I guess answers one of my concerns.
But is Amy an attorney?
No, she's a conservation agent. But,
Right.
I think they're going to have to flush that out, Mr. Chairman. I think, and I'm. The board, you and the waterways can, obviously, you're going to provide your recommendation. It's a concern I have, just looking at this, face value. So how you handle that is up to the board. My next point is, so you have 6 properties that are using the dock, and
I should say that have access. One of the families never uses it, but they do have deeded rights to it. So, yes.
Okay, so I think it's an abutter. I received an email from an abutter. I'm guessing he lives in the area, so I'm guessing he got the notice through the abutter's notice, and he's got some concern. And this person has concern for how many boats come and go from the dock. There is a constant disregard for the neighbors, noise, speed, safety, drinking, etc. Very few have the required mooring permit or waterway user fee permit. Do you rent homes in that association, and are renters using that dock at all? I don't know, so I'm just asking.
We never rent.
Yeah, some of the families have rented their houses, but
yeah,
there's no use of boats there other than, you know, kayaks or whatever. So none of the renters use motorboats.
So all of the boats that use the dock have a waterway user fee permit from the town and are permitted to use the dock.
Yes,
that you know of.
Certainly ours is, so we can speak to that. Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, there's a concern, and I think I owe it to the board to know that I received a concern from somebody who lives in the area, and it's something that I think you guys should know of. Obviously, there's a complaint there, so you know I know it's a shared dock, and you don't have necessarily the responsibility to police it, but it's a concern, and now we're asking to extend the dock so I guess more boats can use it, or same amount but use it safely. I think it's something that you guys should, you know, be aware of and make sure that you're monitoring it. You know, from a navigation standpoint, going out another 8 feet, I don't think has an impact on the waterway. And I say that with somewhat of a caveat, and that is, you know, we don't want to see, you know, 6, 8 boats tying up, breasting up against, and have it like a mini marina either. And I hope you understand that. And if it gets to that point, then I'll have to do some enforcement and some, you know, intercede on that. But if indeed it's just to make boats a little safer in tying up and giving you a little more depth, but we're not expanding the scope of use, then if the ownership and the Chapter 91 license is confirmed, and I think it needs to be. I haven't seen the Chapter 91 license, and the ownership piece I think needs to be answered. But beyond that, from a navigation standpoint, I think it's okay.
John, I just want to make one comment. You know, we certainly agree wholeheartedly with your comments, right? So we can't necessarily police it, but we are boat and lake people from growing up, and really believe in safety first, and do all we can to make sure that all of it is properly handled. And of course, we're not there all the time, and really hard to hear that someone feels that it's, you know, something's a little untoward happening there. So boy, we're gonna, no, it's not we'll watch that for sure. I mean, we'll do everything we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth getting your association together and expressing, you know, and communicating that, and trying to get everybody on board so that it doesn't become an issue for the neighborhood. I mean, it's a great resource. I get it, a beautiful place, and as long as it's done, you know, correctly, I think it's okay.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I do want to also say we're obviously within the no wake zone, like several hundred yards off the shore, And I've never seen a boat do anything but crawl into the dock and away from the dock. And we're not there all the time, so I don't know what our neighbor, I feel terrible our neighbor said that. I never experienced that, but I feel badly she does, so absolutely right. We're going to talk to our neighbors. And the Chapter 91, I just wanted to tell the committee, I scoured the Mass DEP, Barnstable County, Town of Harwich. Nobody has it. It may be in Mike Arger's house, but as I said, he lives in Indiana. But I did find, someone at Conservation found, which was one of the documents I sent over yesterday, a letter from, actually from John, as harbor master, and it was in 2017 the letter was written, and it was entered into the minutes of the Board of Selectmen in August of 2018, I believe, but it addressed it about the MASHPA Association, and the letter was about moorings and a change in the mooring policy. But it described our dock. I'm reading the letter. The dock that is present at the Association Beach area has been properly permitted by the state Chapter 91 license. So there is a license. I don't have it, but clearly there is one, and it was seen several years ago and documented in this letter. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that question needs to be addressed. The issue needs to be addressed of who owns it, who's it's a license to. And again, I think Amy, who I know has been on some extended leave, Amy, the conservation agent, hasn't been around to help you. She's the keeper of all records, and had she been in the office, she may have been able to find it. And I think she's due back here soon, and maybe she'll be able to dig it up. But I believe it exists, but I think it needs to be. I think it needs to be present, and I think it needs to be confirmed who owns the structure and the permit, and if conservation feels like just because you're an associate member that you can file and do the change, that's I guess up to them. So.
And John, I think the record would say that Jim or Michael Arger owns the structure, because he's the son of the original applicant, and just in case it's a matter of just to clear it up, but we've been in constant communication with all of the families, so they all would be on here, except we just thought it would be inappropriate to flood your meeting, so just decided for Katie and I to jump on and try to present the case. Okay.
I mean, it might be. John, I want to make a comment.
Sure.
Katie and Chuck, I'm new to being a chairperson. I am an accountant, and accountants are always suspicious. So my feeling is the owner of the structure should be making this presentation along with you. It's fine with us, but I just don't feel comfortable. I don't know what the other members of the committee feel. Jay?
Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing during the discussion. I don't think that a member of the association has standing for ownership, and I just think that we have to ask that the owner make the presentation, because how do we go back to the association when it's the owner's responsibility?
Well, Jay, I believe they have deeded rights. Am I correct, Katie and Chuck?
Yeah.
Yes, all of 6 families have deeded rights.
Yeah, they do have deeded rights, but they don't own the structure.
But they don't own the float.
Equal shares, yeah.
Yeah, and if they had, do you have deeded rights to the float?
Access. Usually deeded rights provide you access.
I don't really know how that works. I do have to say, like, I'm not a legal person, but it's odd to hear you guys talking about ownership because we all chipped in to buy the dock. So, I mean, in my head, we all own it, but I know that it's not legal.
I don't
so.
oppose the dock. What I oppose is, or what I'm concerned about, is that
Who's speaking?
this is Jay.
Oh, I'm sorry, your face is blocked off. Okay, thank you, Jay.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about is that we as a committee, if we grant the dock, I've got a problem with the owner coming back and saying, well, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And so I think the owner has to come, the guy that has the ownership documentation along with the association, so that we don't end up having a recourse come back at us for approving something that the owner didn't want.
If we certainly appreciate that, and Mike Arger happens to be president of a hospital association, and he has been besieged this year, as you can imagine. So he is underwater all the time and crazy busy. So otherwise, I think he would be here on the call. Would an email from Mike supporting us to this group suffice for his support and backing for the conversation?
Dan Hall?
Yeah, I'm along the same lines. My opinion would be maybe a document with the whole association signing it that they're in agreement of this proposal.
And the owner.
And of course, and the owner. But if we had something in writing that's saying that everyone was on board, I don't think we have less of a, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And right now, we're just taking your word for it, which, you know, I
You look like
appreciate.
nice guys, but.
You know, yeah. I just think if there was something that was actually written up and the whole association signed it saying, yes, we're on board, which who wouldn't want to be? I mean, to extend the float, absolutely.
Right.
You know, but that would definitely help, I think, our side.
Okay.
I didn't hear association. I heard you have deeded rights to the dock. So it's only deeded rights. It's not an association. Is that correct?
It's a loose association.
Loose.
Like we don't have a president and all that.
Right.
Yeah, but so if we had my opinion would be is we had a document with all the homeowners that have deeded rights to that use that would be in favor of extending it, then that would be a better position.
Mm-hmm.
When you say the owners, do you mean the trustees that actually own the land? And we all have
all of them. Everybody.
Holder.
The actual structural owner and the deeded rights owners.
People that are paying for it, people that are using it.
So yeah, just to clarify, so there's 6 families, and
Right, so
all 6 of those families, I think, would be happy to vote, I think, towards it. And one of them, of course, is Michael Arger, and I think his name is on the, of course, he would be presenting the next case.
And he's the license holder.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because that will help us. That will at least solidify that, hey, everyone's on board. You guys just aren't hoping you're talking for everybody. At least there's something in writing saying, yes, everyone's on board. We all want this. And you and the two of you guys are, putting your time forward to present this. It gives us more information to go forward with that.
Yeah, we're non-paid agents.
Right. Yeah.
Throw away.
Yes, you are too. Oh, you are too.
Larry, do you have a comment?
Well, yeah, I think to me, the informal, group that uses the dock, I think that's great, but I think it's the owner and the permit holder that we care about who wants this change to happen and applies for it. That everybody else, I mean, that's amongst you guys, but it's really just the permit holder and the physical owner of the structure, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's just, yeah,
And the owner can be the 6 people.
Yeah.
The 6, yeah, that's okay too, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
But everybody has to be in, in on the same page with the agreement. Yeah,
Any-
with
any
one,
And
other
like I said,
comments?
of the 6, Mike is the owner, I think, on the record, so.
good.
Yeah,
So,
hello,
Mike-
it's Heinz, Natural Resources
Yes, Heinz.
Director. I have a comment and a question. One is, we talk about, I think I heard the date 2002. Not sure when Waterways Committee was actually started. I began in the town in 1998. At that time, there was one position, Natural Resources, Harbor Master Tom Leach. There was a committee, it was the Shellfish and Marine Water Quality Committee, but I don't recall docks coming in front of them at that time. So how that went about, at what point this kind of situation resolved itself with an association or multiple owners, because I know now it's shifted to, deeded rights doesn't constitute availability to shoreline or neighborhood association accessing somebody. I don't think this would, from scratch, this I don't think would exist. Many comments were made. I agree with those, this kind of tracking down owners to sign and users to sign. I mean, I can imagine 6 families have access to that. If 2 years from now, family number 1 sells their home, I'm sure they advertise it as such, comes with, dock availability or beach rights or however it's worded, and how then that new owner, if or not they have a boat, they have to go through that process to get the waterways user fee and so forth. It's just, you can see that many things need to be addressed. A lot of it falls on that beach owner association, and if they came forward with all those, owners and owners of the land, that's going to be helpful. But if there's a change in one of those, they're going to have to resolve that amongst themselves, and I don't know how that would happen, or if the owner changes down the road and the new owner has a different opinion. It's just, those are things that have to be looked at. And then one question to the applicants, just real quick, because you mentioned water level. Exactly when was that low water level? And basically, what's your opinion of the water level at Long Pond right now? Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I supposed to answer that or someone else? I'm confused.
Yes, you could answer, Katie.
Last year was particularly low, as everybody knows, but our neighbors who have the next dock over, actually, I took a picture that I sent to everybody. It was in September last year, so it was at the end of the season. Our neighbors who have been there for many, many, many years, more than we have, said that in their experience, last year was more typical than the years since we've been there. They said, oh, it used to always be this low or something like that, and but it was by far the lowest that we had seen it. Does that answer your question?
And what do you think of it right now?
I wish I had could tell you I had been there to see it very recently, but it's been a few a few weeks, so I'm not. Okay. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned, Katie, you mentioned not finding a license. One of the documents you sent us says DEP file 32-1625 to James A. Arger.
That was, yeah.
And that, it says a license to permit a platform and a seasonal pier, but it couldn't be revised after 122-2006. So I don't understand that.
Well, it's hard for me to understand that too, because I don't work in Harwich, but I did find like a certificate of compliance, and then there was another like extension for that RDA, and then something else and something else that I came across. I did not send it. Like, here it is. Here's a, if I can show it to you, extension permit for orders of conditions that I found. I know you can't read that as I wave it in front of you, but all I know is at one point they went through all the paperwork and got the Chapter 91 license. It was before our time. I don't know.
All right, unless the committee members disagree, I think we've got to find out who has a license and whose name is a license in, if there is a license, and then present to the committee, the Waterways Committee, this request by the person that actually owns the structure and is part of your group, as part of the deeded holders of the property. Do any of the other committees agree or disagree with me?
I totally agree with that.
So
Yeah,
what is your pleasure regarding this request? Shall we table it?
I think we should shelve it until we get more information from either the owner of the float and approval from everyone else associated with it.
The owner of the float and also the license holder.
All right, could someone make a motion to that effect? That we should table, or do you want me to verbalize the motion?
Go ahead.
Make a motion to table this request.
My glasses are on the table.
We don't know who's, well, we'll use your name, Katie and Chuck, okay?
That's great.
Katie and Chuck Tortorello's name. Request for extending a dock, and until documentation is obtained regarding there is a licensed dock there, and the petition is provided by the owner or owner of the dock, even though he's provided deeded beach rights to the 6 members. Who wants to make that motion? I can't make a motion.
I'll do it.
Jay. Second?
I'll second.
Is that Larry?
Yep.
Larry?
Yep.
Okay. Leah? Leah, you there? We lost Leah?
No, sorry, I was trying to write and
Okay.
catch up with everything here.
Sorry.
Right. That's okay. So you're gonna have to fill in the blanks. I missed a little bit of it here. So I have a motion made by Jay Walpole to table this request, presented by Katie and Chuck. Sorry.
Tortorello.
You're good.
Until documentation is obtained by the owner of the license and the dock.
Who has the license for the dock and is the abutter of the dock or owner of the dock physically.
Okay, so table this request presented by Katie and Chuck till the owner of the float, till the owner who has the license for the dock is the owner of this dock.
Whoa. I can't hear it.
Can you hear me okay?
I've got a static. Anybody else have that?
Yeah.
I can hear it.
Okay. That's why I'm wearing headphones, because my system doesn't work right.
No, we all get it.
Dan? You're muted, Dan.
Yeah, I'm getting the static too.
Okay.
Mark Eller, can you try and mute your mic for a moment, see who it's coming from?
Okay.
It stopped.
All right.
Was it Mark?
Yeah, I think it was from Mark.
Okay.
Yikes.
So,
All right,
so
Leah,
continue
sorry.
your-
Okay, let me turn this. Let's see, mute myself. Okay. Okay, so a motion was made by Jay Walpole to table this request presented by Katie and Chuck till the owner of the license and the dock are obtained.
And the owner submits the request for extending or enlarging the dock.
till the owner of the dock, the license to the dock,
presents to the Waterways Committee the request that Katie and Chuck have provided to us tonight. He does
Okay.
not have to, he does not have to make the presentation. Katie and Chuck can come back and do that. Members understand, or you're in agreement, or you want to change it?
Nope, I like that.
All right, any further discussion?
May I ask just one question, you guys?
Yes,
Is there,
yes.
do we then just go through the same process to get back on another agenda in the next whatever cycle that you normally, is that how that would work?
Yes, John, is
Okay.
that, John, you're muted. John,
Yeah, I'm here.
he just goes
yeah.
back and resubmits, and we put him on the agenda at our next meeting or whatever. They're ready
Okay.
to do that.
That's
Oh,
correct. We do we do meetings once a month, the third Wednesday of every month. So just you can send me your updated information. I'll make sure you're on the agenda for next month.
Just get it at least a week before the meeting.
Okay.
So at least John has a chance to look at it and then resubmit it to all the members, dispersed members. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Katie and Chuck.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
All right. Okay, old business. Proposed maintenance, dredging, and installation of batter pile at 16 Harbor Road, in parentheses, Manning Coastal Engineering. Who is going to make that presentation? Oh, now we got Jerry.
I will, Mr. Chair.
Who is that?
Charlie Agro with Coastal Engineering Company.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Since the last meeting, we took everybody's comments into consideration and decided to revise the proposed site plan to remove the additional dolphin pile that we had shown and remove the associated batter pile with it. And now we're left with the maintenance dredging of the site, as well as the proposed batter pile to support the existing pile. Some of the comments that came out of the last meeting had asked how long ago the pile had been installed and what the status of that pile was, and if the pile was old, should the pile just be replaced. Upon visiting the site during a low tide, I inspected the pile above the water line, and it appears to be in very good condition. And after consulting with the owner's boat captain, Mr. Mark Blaze, who I believe is on the hearing, he had told me that the pile had been installed only a few years ago during the winter of 2017-2018. And also upon visual inspection of the pile, I did notice that it's very similar in diameter and material to the piles in the adjacent areas, such as the Stone Horse Yacht Club and the neighboring site. So I believe that a batter pile is the optimal solution in this case, to add some additional support to the existing pile. And if anybody has any questions or concerns with that, I'd be happy to answer them.
John, may I ask you for your comments? Does the new proposal meet what we have been looking for?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's, I fully support their revised plan. I don't see any concerns with it. As you know, I didn't have any concerns last time with the dredging piece of it. And I think the elimination of the other dolphin and batter pile, I support what they're proposing.
Okay. Heinz, do you have any further comment?
I didn't catch that. Was that for me, Hines?
Yes. Do you have any further comment?
I have no further comments or no new comments at this time. Thank you.
Great. Any questions from the members of the committee? Then I'll ask for a motion to accept the proposal. I don't know what we're proposing though. There's no, there is a plan. Is this the revised plan that we have, John? It's C 3.1.1?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, and is there a date on it? I can't read it.
Well, the date on the plan is March 3rd of
Yes,
21.
there's a revised date in the top right-hand corner.
Right-hand corner?
And I believe that date should be crossed out. And in the top right-hand corner, there's a revised date with with some comments of what was revised on the plan.
Yeah, it's March 31st of 2001. And the note is remove proposed dolphin pile with a battered support pile.
Leah, I'll
I'm
paraphrase.
sorry, John, was that 2001 or 2021?
2021.
2021, yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
And I'm sorry, could you repeat the plan number, C3?
C 3.1.1.
Thank you.
There's another number down below, but I can't read it. Leah, can you read back the motion, please?
I have a motion not made by anybody yet, but to accept the proposal of Plan C3.1.1, revision date 3/31/2021.
Right.
And it's for, let me just double check. The Manning at 16 Harbor Road, Manning.
Yes. And the purpose is to propose maintenance, dredging, and additional fender piles. Is that, we eliminated the piles, right?
So it's proposed maintenance dredging and additional battered pile.
Battered pile. Okay. 1-1. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Did you get that, Leah?
I did, yes.
Okay. Could you read it back and then we'll have somebody make the motion?
Sure, absolutely. To accept the proposed plan for maintenance, dredging, and installation of a batter pile, Plan C3.1.1, revision date 3/31/2021 at 16 Harbor Road, the Mannings.
Harwich Port.
Harwich Port. Okay.
Who would make that motion? Dan Hall, second.
Jay,
Second.
Jay?
well,
Or Dan?
let somebody else, yeah.
Larry?
Yep, that's fine.
Larry. Motion made by Dan Hall and seconded by Larry Brody. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you all.
Right. The next item under old business is modification of existing seasonal permit for production of sugar kelp to include bay scallops, Kelper Farms, Mark Kelleher. And Mark is here, I believe. Are you going to make the request or is Paul?
Yeah, Mark Kelleher here. I'm going to have Paul Wittenstein speak to this. Paul's on. I just will preface it by saying that the proposed line runs east-west, which is along, which should reduce any strikes by boats since a lot of them travel parallel to the shore, and that the lines we are going to use are 3/8 of an inch thick, which is the same thickness as the hundreds of conch traps and lobster traps that are in that area. But Paul's going to speak to the new locations we've talked about. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay,
Sure.
Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I don't know if you want me to go into the entire proposal that we went through last week, but basically what we're proposing.
Unless the committee wants to, I don't see any need for it. Anybody on the committee want to hear it all over again? No comment? Then you have the floor, Paul.
Okay, all right. So basically, what we're proposing to address the concerns of the committee from the last round is just to move our existing location out. You can see on this map, the red dot is where we currently have kelp lines, and we're proposing to move the new proposed kelp and scallop lines out to either of the two green dots. Mark is permitted from the state. When he got his original kelp permits, he was permitted to use where the red dot is and where the further out of the green dots are. He never put kelp out there, but if it'll alleviate concerns of navigation, we'd be willing to go out further. It puts it further offshore, further away from any of the entrance channels to Allen or Herring River. It keeps it out of the Chatham roads. And hopefully that can address some concerns.
Okay, John, as harbor master, what are your comments on this?
If I can, Mr. Chairman, Heinz, can you kind of go over what permit they currently have and what the permit that they currently has allows them to do? Just, I want to make sure I'm clear on it, and I would like to make sure the board is clear on it.
Yeah, sure. This is Heinz, Natural Resources Director. And by all means, if either Mark or Paul want to edit or correct something that I don't quite clearly state, but this is how I understood it to be. That permit that the Kelleher Farm got for the kelp lines came through the state. And at another point in time, there was a request to do some additional aquaculture on those lines in the form of scallop bags. And there was an agreement and not permit, but well, there's a permit that falls under natural resources. And I was in agreement to them to try a one-year study to do that, which they're in the process of or in the middle of seeing how that is going, to put, I think it's 5 scallop bags on that kelp line. And so this is a request, as I see, to go to a new location, but not to expand the number of scallop bags, or certainly if it is, it wouldn't be under the natural resources pilot study or agreement. That would have to be something that they would pursue on their own. So that's what I understand of the permitting and where it stands. They're in that kind of 1 year under the natural resources management, or allowability to do that kind of a pilot test study. And Mark or Paul, if I've gotten that incorrect, I apologize, but that's how I understand it.
Paul or Mark, do you have a comment on that, or is Heinz correct?
All right. Heinz has got it primarily correct, but what we're requesting now is to move the existing kelp line we have out to a previously permitted area, and also to put up to, keep one kelp line there. And the kelp line is about 200 feet, and would put about 50 lantern bags of bay scallops on there. And the reason we're doing that is we want to get a real experience in doing it and seeing if we can get it to work. Paul and I were out at the 3.
Oh, you're breaking up. Can't hear you.
Can you hear us, Mark?
Paul? Mark?
Mark?
Paul?
Yeah, I think Mark's internet is not the best.
Yeah.
Oh.
At not that we don't love to see you, Mark, but I'm almost wondering if you turned off your camera, if your internet connection might handle your voice a little better. Yeah, I guess what Mark's trying to say is that yeah, Heinz, I think you have that right. We have the existing kelp permits, which I don't know if they're through natural resource or through the DMF, but basically that allows us to keep the lines, the 200-foot line in the water from October through May. And then in addition, we have the natural resource agreement to hang the 5 bags of scallops. And what we're really proposing is to keep the 200-foot kelp line in throughout the summer, which is what we proposed at the last meeting. And it was denied because of its location and navigation problems. And so we're now proposing to move it out to the other DMF permitted location and keep that line in through the course of the summer.
Any questions from the committee? Harbor Master stepped away from, oh, there he is.
Yeah, so my only question is, John, how do you feel about the new locations?
Just one quick thing. It's Heinz again, Natural Resources, because we really need to make this clear before we kind of push on to the navigation. That kelp permit that they got, that was theirs. They couldn't do the shellfishing, or they didn't have a permit for that, but I was able or allowed permission for the 5, and I was okay with that. But I wouldn't shelter or shepherd or manage or be responsible or have any kind of connection with a permit through Natural Resources for any more bags. And so that has to be clear. If their kelp line comes with the ability to host or grow those extra number of scallop bags, well that, if it gets permitted, then that's fine. But there's a reason that I was asked to work with them initially, and I think it's because the permit did not allow them to do the scallop bag. So and so when they talk about the issues or concerns, moving it out, navigation, so forth, one of those, and that's always been the I guess stance of Natural Resources, is that I stand it in terms of number of bags. Thank you.
Mark, can you turn
your so for clarity, we're just simply discussing the location of
Mark.
Yeah, hold on, Larry. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, there we go.
So we're just discussing the location of the line, not the use of the line. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that. I mean, I think the line that we were discussing is the DMF permitted one, which I guess is not permitted by Natural Resources. We do have to go and get that permitted on our own, which would, I suppose, require the Board of Selectmen's amending it. I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
John, I think that's what you suggested last time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll again defer to Heinz on the permit question and how they possibly could get a permit, because I don't think they have a permit to do what they're proposing right now.
Whoa.
Heinz, are you there?
Dan?
Are you guys opposed? I don't say opposed. Other than moving your location from the last meeting, are you adding more shellfish, or are you adding anything else to that from the previous meeting that we just?
No, not from what we presented at the previous meeting.
You're just essentially moving the proposal. That you're just moving it to a different location.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who is caller 2? That's creating the static.
No, it's not. Caller 2 is muted.
I've got the boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's not working.
Caller 2. What did you say, Paul?
No, we're not we're not proposing anything different than what we proposed at the last meeting. We're just we were proposing to move the location of what we were discussing at the last meeting. Yeah, to nothing different otherwise.
So that's where I'm a little confused.
It's Hines, Natural Resources again, and I understand the request, and I think valid request in terms of not saying that whether it should be granted or not, but the request of moving their line is one thing. That comes up for tonight's discussion and so forth. And then this idea of the permitting for aquaculture would have to, as I see, come from the Board of Selectmen. And so whether it's not if I'm supportive or opposed to that request for aquaculture, it's just I wouldn't grant it, meaning I'm not going to shoulder that. If it's approved by, I don't know, the Division of Fisheries who gave them the kelp one, or Board of Selectmen, then I would certainly say, good luck to them there. But I'm not the permitting agency, and I'm not going to expand the pilot study that Natural Resources does. I just think of what else would come from other applicants and so forth. So I understand their question of, I think they just want to move their line assembly and set up to that other location, and I think they're going to work on that other stuff. But if they're not granted the moving of the line, then they're not going to take that next step and get into the other areas as well. Thank you.
Okay, John?
Yeah, so, I mean, I still have the same concerns that I had last meeting. I mean, I think the one that's closest to Kill Pond location is
thousands of calls.
Is better.
Who's talking in the background?
I don't know.
I'll keep going.
Thanks, John. Sorry, John.
Yeah, that's okay. No worries. It's part of being on these things. So, I mean, I still see, if you're going to have, one line and the Board of Selectmen want to allow you to issue you a local permit to do that, I mean, that's going to be their decision to make. And I will continue to express concerns about designating a footprint within our shoreline that's dedicated strictly to Kelper Farms to run this aquaculture operation. I think the concerns that both me and Heinz have spoken to in the past regarding our waterway, and our waterway is different from some of these other towns that have intertidal zones that are more suited. That hasn't changed. If you run a pilot study, or if you run a line to see what it looks like, or see what your success is, and if you find, hey, this is great, and then you want to expand it to, a much bigger footprint, that's a problem, and that continues to be a concern of mine. So that's my position. I think ultimately you're going to end up going to the board because you need to, and then they'll let you know what you think. I'm sure they'll let you know what they think. I'm sorry.
Any questions or comments from the members of the committee?
Yep, this is Jay.
Jay?
The only thing that I believe that we can be dealing with is positioning of the kelp line. That's the only thing that we have jurisdiction over.
Right.
And what grows on that line doesn't really matter, as far as I'm concerned. Does that make sense to me, or to you?
Yep, it does to me. But
okay, that's I'm concerned. The only concern I have is navigation, and I would share whatever concerns that the harbor master has.
Any other questions, Larry or Dan?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, do you feel better, John, about the newer location? I'm with you on the concerns that, yeah, if things look great, then what are we gonna deal with? But I mean,
Yeah, I would say, Dan, to answer your question, the green circle closest to the KP buoy is a better position than what they initially had right off the entrance to the Heron River. So absolutely.
yeah, so I guess at this point, my question is that, so I don't want to be a negative Nelly, but like, say if things do look great, then what? What are you guys looking at if things?
I don't.
I don't want to hinder progress, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I suppose if this worked, our next step would be to kind of maybe revisit the approach that Heinz and Amy Usowski at Conservation had talked about in the past, at kind of looking at a collective area within the Sound that does conform to everyone's concerns via navigation and different usage, and see if there's something that maybe the town wants to get involved and permit a larger area and then divide it up amongst interested parties. I think that would be my goal going forward if this does work. I suppose that to look at it from another perspective, that does open up, us and other people putting in more time into potentially just being shot down, which is definitely a possibility, and that's that can happen. But I suppose it's, in my mind, worth a try.
Any further comments or questions?
Can anybody hear Mark Kelleher?
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can.
I get bounced off again. It seems like every time I talk, I get bounced off. I will say this, I heard earlier. The permitting, we would need a modification of our permit from the DMF and the Army Corps of Engineers. Both of them have indicated that they would be supportive because we have it previously permitted. But again, they defer it to at least the town selectmen first. So it looks like we can get the permits from the DMF and the Army Corps. Again, it starts locally. So that's all. I heard that earlier before I get bounced off.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Okay, it's Heinz again.
Yes,
Resources. I think the way Paul described there at the end with, let's say, their test group of extra shellfish scallop bags, if they're granted that, doesn't work, well then they'll continue with a different idea or a different path or somewhat, and that kind of is a moot point then on any kind of big expansion. If it does well in terms of survival or growth rates or whatever it is, and then, as he described, it would go to conservation and natural resources and harbor and so forth. I'm not opposed to saying, well, no, I wouldn't ever want anything like that, but I'm also not saying that would have to happen or that it's an automatic, expansion and will be implemented. But I would be open to discussions and trying to work with that if, in fact, it, confines or, makes everything work with every user group and area and waterfront and harbor, and selectmen kind of set up how they would actually want it to work and see that it could be successful. But I certainly wouldn't want to be the one that's then given this magic wand and said, okay, you got to make this work and make this square peg fit in a round hole off the shore of Harwich, because since we tried that at one point and we didn't get anywhere with that. So my summary real quick, that's fine if that's in the goal, but there aren't any promises at this point. But I'm not, in a sense, opposed to that possibility, nor am I saying I would automatically support it, if it was successful and push for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Heinz. I entertain a motion to proceed. So we're going to make the motion. Or do you want me to verbalize it?
Well, So I mean, just quickly, John, so you're not opposed to the green dots, the green circles, really? I mean,
No, I didn't say that. I said it's better than the red.
He did say
should they have put them as orange circles?
that.
All right. So what kind of motion do we make?
All right. The motion is the way it's stated in the old business. Do we
I
want
mean,
to
we just approve it on an experimental basis? Is that kind of what we're saying? It's experimental and it has to be completely revisited if it's successful? Is that kind of where we're going with that, or?
You're asking me?
I'm just talking. I mean, I'm just talking.
Yeah. Are Larry and Jay on board as to making a motion to move forward?
Well, are we simply just talking about allowing them to move the location as it is right now?
And to include bay scallops in their process.
Well, they're going to get permitting for that.
We don't decide on the scallops. That's a total different group. I feel like we're just discussing allowing them to go from the little red dot to the big green dot.
Correct.
So if that's what the motion is, I'm good with moving from the red dot to the big green dot, and then they get to begin the process of permitting to go from 5 bags of scallops to the 50 or whatever number, and deal with the Heinz and conservation and the boards needed to do that. I don't think we have anything to do with that.
So how do you want to word? Okay, how do you want to word that?
We support the motion. We support the move from the red dot to the green dot near the KP buoy.
Why don't we reference what is this that you presented? Horizontal datum. It's at the top.
Hold on, let me grab it.
Paul or Mark, what do you call this? What are you calling that?
What are we calling?
So we can refer to a specific item that we're.
I wonder, Mark, do you have the latitude and longitude coordinates from the DMF for your original further out permit?
I do. I don't have them right. I could find them real quick, but I do. But what the other thing we could do is just get the coordinates for the farthest most green dot and just do that. I mean, for now, for the sake of tonight, we could say the southernmost green dots, and I will get to John or Heinz the coordinates, or you can get them, Paul, for tomorrow or the next day.
I can do that.
All right, does that work?
Yeah, I'm concerned about the harbor master's concerns. I'd like to hear them again.
John, are you there? Okay.
I was muted. With regard to having gear in all throughout the summer with all the boating traffic that we have going, and designating an area for this gear to be placed, is that what you're talking about, Jay? Is that what you want to hear?
Well, yeah, that's what I want to hear. What are the, because that's the only concern we have is extending this throughout the summer, the boating months, and moving it. Those are the two concerns as I see it. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think this board Correct. I think from your perspective, we're looking at the navigation piece of what the impact that it could have on the waterway and the busyness of the sound, and whether we think it's reasonable to designate an area to have this gear in the water throughout the year. You know, the initial approval was seasonal, and then they got approval through Heinz's permit to do a 5-bag scallop bag, you know, pilot program, and now they've asked to expand that, and I know they have to go to get a permit to do that, but from my perspective, they're expanding into the waterway with gear that is in the middle of the summer, and there's some concern there.
How can that concern be mitigated?
It could be eliminated.
Okay.
I mean, you know, we're going to have to make a decision, I think, we, the town, whether we're going to pursue designating an area, and because this is not the only request. There's going to be more requests, and this kind of thing, I think needs, you know, it's going to come to a head, and we're going to have to make a decision whether we're going to set a section of our waterway where we're going to allow this. And you know, that decision is going to be beyond me, but I will continue to voice some concern with regard to boating safety and navigation.
Okay, so I understand your concern to be not the position of, well, you are happier that it would be the southernmost green dot, but you're not happy that it would be during the popular boating season.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question. The green dots are going to be markers for the site, and the line will be situated where? Marker.
The green dots were just 2 alternate locations that Mark and I had discussed. The actual scale of it will be is too small to see on this map. I mean, it'll be a 200-foot line within either one of those green dots. I guess now we're really focusing on the further southernmost one. It'll be a single 200-foot line out in there with buoys marking where it is.
The line will be submerged, or will it be?
Yeah, the line itself is submerged, is 8 feet below the surface, with intermittent poly float balls spaced along the line to keep it submerged at that depth instead of just sinking to the bottom where the scallops would die.
Okay.
So the line that you're running is 200 feet, but it's 8 feet below the water line?
Yes. Yeah, with poly balls spaced along the line to keep it at that depth.
At what depth are the poly balls?
Well, the poly balls are floating on the surface. They're big yellow markers. You know.
So is there? So they're just going to be regular buoys. I mean, there's nothing going to illuminate them at night or anything. Just regular buoys.
Not as we've designed it. I mean, we could certainly look into.
No, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very, very similar to what, if you go out there in another month or two, the conch buoys that are all out there. It's going to look very similar to that.
Okay.
All right. Again, entertain a motion, either for or opposed.
Well, I mean, I guess I could say make a motion to approve under experimental basis. That we would have to really, you know, if going forward, we'd have to reinvent the wheel. But for experimental basis.
But the approval for the experimental basis was during the off winter months only.
Well, now we're not talking winter months only. We're talking
Right.
we're talking year round now.
Right.
I mean, it's not much of an experiment if it's not during the summertime. Is that correct?
Correct. That's where we get most of our growth.
Yeah. I mean, this is a moot point if it's not during the summertime. So, I mean, so one quick question is, so is the permitting for 1 year? Do you have to, I mean, or is permitting for 5 years or 10 years or is it a yearly permit?
Dan, it's Hines, Natural Resources again. I just kind of wanted to shed light on, the sense that it really is a moot point if it's not seasonal. But it did work, or it did function under the kelp kind of description, because the kelp were something that grew better in that kind of fall, early springtime. And if the kelp had taken off and grown well, then I would think Mark and Paul would have stayed with something like that was successful. But because they're shifting species, now kicks into more of the year-round request. But so it wasn't a moot point in the beginning because it worked, or it was, I guess, approved and allowed and permitted because of that. But because of change of species is what's driving this kind of year-round request now. Thanks.
So what else are you adding? The clams, or what else are you adding?
Scallops.
Just base scallops.
So adding the scallops is what's kind of driving the summer months?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now I'm a little more in tune. Okay. It's not so much the kelp, it's the
base scallops. Yes.
The scallops. Okay. But that's still an experiment, right?
It's still an experiment. If it's successful, it could be a very good economic development opportunity.
But we have no purview as a committee as to that permit process. All we have is the location, and do we even have the time period? Is that?
Our experiment would end by December 31st, 2022. By then we'll have a good track record, and then we'd either determine it's not successful or be coming back to the different boards to extend it.
Gotcha.
All right. Have we heard enough discussion? Dan, you started to make a motion.
Yeah, so the proposal is just through December 22? Is that
correct?
Yes.
So I guess the motion is to approve it as long as the furthest most out green dot is, what is that? The southernmost location is utilized, I guess.
How far from shore is that?
Approximately 1.3 to 1.5 miles.
You want to put that in your motion, Dan?
Sure. So, to approve the motion for the most southern buoy at 1.2 to 1.4 miles on an experimental basis. Is that?
Anyone, is that motion clear to everyone? A second? No one making us, Larry or Jay? No second? There's no second, the motion dies. So sorry, Paul and Mark.
Okay.
There's too much concern.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll take it again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. No. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
What was that?
That was me.
Okay. All right. Next items are the monthly reports. Nothing from the Board of Selectmen. Harbor Master report. John? Okay. The harbor master report.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can. You were off.
Yeah, I just had a couple things that I actually provided some correspondence to speak to a couple of issues. One is just anytime we revoke a mooring and we send a letter, we just info the board and we revoked a mooring letter, a mooring permit. So that's just giving you some visibility of it.
Oh, who's that?
I don't know, somebody in the background.
Who knows? Just keep going.
John, I have a question.
Just didn't have
Return receipt requested for the mooring termination?
I didn't hear that, Tom.
When you sent the letter out to John Murphy, is that a return receipt requested so we know he received it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then the next is we're getting ready to, dredge season is arrived, and we'll be dredging Allen Harbor Channel and Saquatucket Harbor Channel. And so I put a memo before the Board of Selectmen to get their authority to make a certain volume of sand available for purchase by private homeowners, and we call it surplus sand. We have a policy that kind of defines how we do it. It's a bid process. I put a public notice in the paper for 2 weeks to notify any interested parties, and then they submit bids to purchase the material. The minimum bid has to be what the town pays for it. We pay the county $9 a cubic yard. I'm estimating we'll have somewhere in the range of 10,000 cubic yards to sell. We'll probably dredge a total of 16,000. So I'm going to put some of the sand on our public beaches. But so that's coming up. We'll put the ad in the paper next week and run it for 2 weeks, and I think there's going to be a lot of interest from folks who need sand. So, and that's about it. We're busy getting our boats in the water. We're going to start setting buoys, our channel markers out, and our moorings over at Long Pond, and so we're gearing up for the season. Transient requests are coming in strong. It's going to be a busy summer, so we're gearing up for it.
Great. Thank you. Heinz,
Okay.
Do you have a report?
I do. Natural resources this time of year, April, and then even more so in May is when we start getting the herring migrating up our streams, which they are. We had somewhat of a cool, beginning of the week last week, and we finally got a nice sunny day. Just real quick context, 2 years ago, the electronic counter counted over 1 million herring that came up Herring River. Last year, it was 994,000. As of last Saturday, and that's already mid-April, we were only at 54,000, but it's jumped now to 100,000 today. Now, granted, we still have a little bit of April, but a strong May will certainly change all that. And of all the years that I've worked with the herring and the migration run, the fish ladder at Hinckley's Pond, this is the one that the Conservation Trust does its volunteer count, which they're not doing this year. I've never had to, I guess, use the word babysit an area the way I did this year in terms of like adjusting board heights, adjusting flow, getting fish over. I had fish stacked up, not going into Hinckley's Pond for whatever reason, but I actually raised the board, meaning lifted it up and created water underneath, and every single herring, and I'm talking thousands, went into Hinckley's Pond in the last, really 48 hours, but I'll continue to monitor that. And that was one of my questions asking that applicant earlier, is the level of Long Pond as they see it, because all those ponds connect, Seymour, Long Pond, and Hinckley's, and it's all a domino effect. If I start playing with water level at one pond, in time, it'll affect another, plus or minus whatever I'm doing, so I have to be careful. But other than that, that's the latest from Natural Resources. Thanks.
It seems like Long Pond's a little higher right now, to be quite honest.
Yeah, the water levels are high, which is good. And also, we have a small amount of fish that make their way up Red River into Skinnicket Pond. They pass underneath Uncle Vinny's Road, and I've gotten some concerns that people are saying they're seeing dead fish in the stream, which technically, if you looked in there, you would see a few dead herring, and they have the bellies bitten out of them by whatever, it's coyotes or raccoons or fox or whatever in there because of nutrient, protein-rich fish coming up through that stream. You know, birds get at them too. But it's in a public view, and boy, people are quickly to call me and tell me that there's, you know, a die-off or a fish kill. And when I explain to them, you know, 100 dead fish, it's a circle of life. We have over 1 million herring. You know, if we lose 100 or 200 or 300, that's normal, natural, and fine. But boy, it stirs up some attention. Thanks.
I can only imagine.
Thank you. Any other comment? Before we adjourn, I'd like to tell the committee members we have a very efficient secretary. Before we're finished, those minutes will probably be in my hands within a half hour. She's been very efficient getting to it, and I appreciate her efforts. So thank you, Leah. At this time, I'd like a motion to adjourn. It's 8 o'clock.
Accept.
Dan and Jay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you very much for your attention. It was a little longer than I thought it would be. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. Great. Oh, jeez.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. I'll try to get them out to you now.